guys, welcome to Unbound Wisdom. Today's topic is the concept of being in the body. We hear this all the time, We are encouraged to stay in our bodies. But have you actually ever thought about what exactly that means and the nuances that are behind the idea of staying in the body? I've been considering this quite a bit recently, and I realized that there's way more to the idea of staying in the body than meets the eye. So I wanted to go over different ways in which I think that we inadvertently escape our body. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and energetically. All different ways in which we try to abandon our human vessel, either consciously or unconsciously. We chose to be human for a reason. Human with a human body. We chose to have the human experience, which means we are not intended to consistently try to escape the body. So important that we can figure out the ways in which we are unintentionally trying to escape our bodies so that we can really soak in the human experience, and so that we also can do our best work here, that we can do what we're on the planet to do. Our work here is best done when we are in the body. So, first, mentally. When we escape mentally, what I'm talking about is when we live in our head with looping thought patterns, with obsessive thinking, whether it's about the past, going over your past regrets, or trying to relive the past, thinking of ways that you would have done things differently. Or if you're worrying about what might happen in the future and consistently replaying scenarios of what the future might look like or be like, these are definitely ways that we escape our body and live in the mind. We are definitely not the most effective, however, when we are in our mind. We are most effective when we are in our body, but still incorporating our mind, right? One example that I thought of, which is something that I've been really trying to work through myself, are those times when I speak and then I don't even know what I said. So I'm so much living in my thoughts that I don't even recognize what I'm saying. This happened to me quite often, especially when I started to be on Zoom a lot more. I would recognize times where, maybe you go around the circle and you introduce yourself, and I might talk for 3 minutes straight, and then I would stop and I would think, wait, I don't even know what I said. I'd almost have to listen back to the recording to know what I said. That's a surefire sign that we are not in our body when we're speaking, if we can't remember what we even said when we're done talking for 3 minutes. So also, this comes up a lot for people if there's a time where you're talking to someone, you're in the middle of a conversation, and you're thinking of what your response is going to be before they're even done talking. It's super common. It's a super common thing to do. However, we're not really in our bodies at that point when we slip up into our mind and start thinking of what we were going to say next. And we can always tell this happened because they might be done talking and we may have completely missed the whole rest of their conversation because we were so focused on what we were going to say next. Great examples of when we have left our body and have slipped into our mind. Also, I say physically abandoning the body, and what I mean by that is allowing our consciousness to float outside of our body. And this is not in a purposeful way when I'm speaking of it like this. So it's not the instances when we're in meditation or we are purposefully astral traveling, or we're dreaming. These are the instances that I'm speaking of are ones that when we're not purposefully doing it. It's when we're becoming disassociated and literally unaware of our body. So it's different from the mental thing, the last example that I gave you, because we're not thinking. We have a blank mind, but we're simply checked out of our experience. So some examples of this might be playing video games, being on the social media scroll where you're not even really aware of what you're doing. This can happen, staring off into space. This is a big one. maybe I'm the only one that does this, but there are times it feels really good to like seriously just check out and just stare off into space. And it's almost somewhat of a mind reset for me sometimes. Though I recognize that I am disassociating and it's not the best thing for me to do because I'm not present in my body, right? Another example would be, when we are trying to escape pain. So this could be something that's actually beneficial. In times of intense pain, this disassociation can happen. So I was thinking about childbirth, for example. It hurts really bad. And so in order to get through it, sometimes we have to disassociate. We basically allow our consciousness to float away from our body so that we are not subjected to that pain, right? Also, I notice this happening during intense exercise for some people, where there is a point where we kind of have to check out in order to continue going because it does hurt. And if we're very aware of our body, we wouldn't subject ourselves to that much pain, right? So often happens during intense exercise. And this one happens to me, or used to happen a lot. It's getting better now, but being very, very busy for no reason. So my family would call this tazzing, like the Tasmanian devil. And I used to do this often when I was trying to check out on my life. I would be very busy tidying the house, even if it didn't need to be tidied. And really all it is a way of staying so busy that you cannot pay attention to your emotions. You cannot pay attention to the events in your life that you don't want to deal with. It's basically being busy to stay out of the present. So the third category that I thought of was emotionally abandoning our body. And this one is so big, but not often recognized. This is when we intellectualize an emotion instead of actually feeling it in the body. We either imagine what it's supposed to feel like, or we fall back onto how we were programmed or conditioned for them to feel. This is very, very nuanced, but you can think about it as a way of distracting ourselves from feeling, from really genuinely feeling into our body and feeling what that emotion feels like. Instead, it's kind of, yeah, I know it feels like to be happy. But what does it really feel like to be happy? Have you ever actually felt into your body to feel that sensation? My guess is the more that we do that, the more in touch with our physical body we get, with the connection between our physical body and our emotions, the more intuitive we'll be able to be, and the more able we are to tap into different realms as well. Whether it's speaking to our guides or being more connected to our higher selves. I genuinely think that there's a huge connection between being able to feel into our body and then have those connections. The fourth one is difficult to explain, but it's so relevant. Spiritual. This is when we are unconsciously living from a place of triggered responses. This is how we abandon ourselves spiritually. When past traumas dictate our experiences. Could come from societal programming, from childhood conditioning. Those both affect this greatly. And what I mean by this is, when we are living in a triggered response, we're not really in the present moment and we are not in our body. What happens is, if we have a trauma, whether it's in our childhood or any time during our life really, where we're unable to process the emotions in the moment, we store it as a trauma, and which can be easily triggered if something happens in our present life. It brings that trauma back up, and if we don't realize what's going on, we can slip into a trauma response, which means we're basically trying to just cope, just get by, but we are not fully present in the moment consciously. So when I talk to people about being more embodied, this is often what I'm speaking of. It's on the spiritual level, and it has to do with clearing out the traumas, clearing out the societal programming, the conditioning, the responses where we just have a knee-jerk reaction instead of really acting from an empowered and aware state. And when I talk about it, I mean more clearing all that stuff out so that we can bring more of our own soul essence into our human experience. It is difficult to describe, but I do feel like this is a huge way that we abandon our body when we are living from a trauma response or living from a triggered reaction, as opposed to an aware and conscious action. The last category that I had was energetic. Also difficult to describe, but very relevant, I believe. This happens when we're unable to hold our own sovereign energetic field. So we may project our energy out onto others, or we may absorb energy from others. Basically, we're just not able to stay in our own energy soup, is what I call it. And that is a huge way that we are not staying in the present moment. Because if we are not in our own energetic soup, we're relying on the energy of the whole rest of the world to determine how we feel, instead of being able to really live from our own energetic source, right? As you can tell, all of these methods we inadvertently employ to escape the present moment. So I call it not being in the body, and there's so many different ways, like I just listed. It's more complicated than we realize. However, a lot of people in the spiritual community would call it being ungrounded. And I feel like it goes a lot deeper than simply being ungrounded. I don't think being in the body and being grounded are the same thing. Especially if we look at the concept of programs and conditioning and triggered trauma responses. These can all happen when we're quote unquote grounded as well. We can be running a societal program and be quote unquote grounded. However, we cannot be running a societal program and be in our body. That would be my take on it currently. So we can consciously work on all of these areas. Very, very easily done. It really just truly takes awareness. And that way we're going to be able to be more present more often and more in our bodies. Well, why do we even want to be in our body? What does it even matter, right? Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard, and it's not, there's pain in life and there's difficult times, and it's just so much easier to check out, right? Completely understand that. However, there are some huge reasons why it is important to focus on being present and being in our body. One of the big ones, especially for people that consider themselves light workers or starseeds, is the ability to anchor frequencies to the earth. Probably if you are a light worker, that would be one of the main reasons that you're on earth. And it is best done in the body. We're able to anchor the most frequencies, the most efficiently, the most consistently when we are in our body. Also, our body, our physical body, our physical vessel is the portal to other dimensions. It truly is. Our consciousness could not be on the planet if it weren't for our physical body. So the more our consciousness can be in our body, it's going to actually help us connect to different dimensions. Our ability to receive and interpret downloads is best when we are in our body. Our ability to be more discerning is best when we're in our body. And by discerning, I mean our ability to have intuitive inspirations, our ability to sense what feels true and what does not feel true. So to recognize the frequency of truth is best done when we are in our body, not up in our head, not running societal programs, right? When we are truly present in our body. We are going to be able to sense danger easier. We are going to be able to sense what's a good fit for us. whether it's other people, like relationships, or whether it's, circumstances in your life. What's a good fit for your job? What's a good fit for um, a move, if you're going to move somewhere? Any of these decisions that we're making in our lives, we're going to be able to make them a lot better with better discernment if we are in our body. A huge one for me too is creation. Creation can only happen in the present. It can only happen when we are in our body. So our creative flow is best done when we are in our body, when we are grounded and connected to source at the same time. That to me is the recipe for the best divine creation. And when you think about it, all the yummy stuff in life is experienced in our body. You can think about the best emotions like bliss or peace or joy, compassion, love, reverence. Think about all of those amazing emotions. And in your mind, they are only concepts. So you can think about joy. If you're feeling into joy, if you think about it, it's a concept. But when you feel it in your body, that's an experience. So how huge is that? All the amazing emotions in life are only concepts in the mind. They are experiences in the body. And as humans, we're really actually quite fortunate to be able to feel emotions. There's lots of different species or races, if you want to call other beings that, are unable to sense the emotional spectrum that we have. So sometimes emotions are difficult, yes, but they actually are a gift. They truly, truly are. To experience the broad spectrum of emotions that we get to experience as humans is the greatest gift. You can also think about other tangible things like scent. Think about the smell of a beautiful flower or the smell of chocolate chip cookies. Only can be experienced when you're in your body. A delicious taste. I personally love coffee. And if I take my first sip of delicious coffee, it's an experience in my body, right? It's just a thought in my mind. It's just a concept or an idea in my mind. But in my body, it is an experience. All the amazing parts of being human are achieved when we are present and we are in our body. So I wanted to finish up with some best practices on how you can get back into your body if you're noticing yourself slipping out. First, if your consciousness is floating outside, like you feel spacey, you feel checked out, you notice yourself staring off into space, you can use sensory practices. These are my favorites to do. Either use cold water, you can splash cold water on your face. You can use the sense of sight. This one's a big one for me. When I'm feeling really spacey, I force myself to focus consciously on my surroundings. So I look very slowly and I look and I focus on what's in front of me. And I look at all the details, and then I might let my gaze drift to the next object in the room, and I really gaze at it and notice it and pay attention to it. I don't just like skim over it quickly. I spend a good 10-15 seconds really studying each object, and that really brings my consciousness back into my body. Also, you can do smells. I love using smells. Like if you have essential oils, that's lovely. I love citrus. I love cedar. If you can if you can have peppermint, that's great as well. Pine, if you have any trees that you can go and actually smell the tree, that's amazing because you're out in nature in that way as well. But using scent to bring you back into the present moment is a very easy, quick fix. Also, you can feel fabrics. So you might actually have a blanket. My dog's laying on my blanket, so I can't show you with that. Maybe you have a sweater, a nice soft sweater, and you actually like feel it on your face. Feel what it feels like when your sweater touches your face or your blanket. You can wiggle your toes. Feel what it feels like to wiggle your toes. Wiggle your fingers. Feel what it feels like to wiggle your fingers. Really feel what it feels like to be in your body. Those are great sensory practices that you can use to bring your consciousness back into your physical vessel. If you happen to be lost in your head, which means obsessing about the past or worrying about the future, or just the looping thought patterns that we all get caught in from time to time, some of my favorite things to do to get out of that loop is stomping on the earth. And I really do mean stomping. If you can take your shoes off, all the better. Truly stomping into the ground, feeling the ground beneath your feet, whether it's dirt or grass, even if it has to be concrete. Awesome. Really stomp on the ground. You can touch plants. I love that one. Really touching the plants, feeling the plants, connecting with the plants, and you bring yourself out of your mental loops into the present moment, touching the plants. Exercise is a great one for this, even if it's a brisk walk. Anything to get your heart pumping a little bit, and you really work on getting out of your mind and feeling into your body as your heart rate goes up and as your respiration increases a little bit. Really feel what that feels like in your body. Also, mindfulness practices like yoga or Tai Chi, huge. If you happen to have that monkey mind, yoga or Tai Chi is incredible. I know a lot of people say to meditate, and for some that works lovely. But for people that actually have a very, very difficult time with monkey mind, I find that when they're doing a moving meditation practice like yoga or Tai Chi, that's a lot easier for them to get out of their head. Probably because they're focusing on the movement as opposed to the thoughts in their head. When we're sitting still in meditation, sometimes it's very difficult for people to turn off their minds. So I would recommend yoga or Tai Chi. Also, journaling can be huge for people that are stuck in thought loops. Sometimes it helps just to write it out. Write whatever you're thinking about, just write it out on paper, to get out of your head. If you are not feeling the emotions in your body, this one's a really important one. I think it's going to help with intuition for sure for people. I think it's going to help people be able to connect to their divine guides as well by feeling into their body. So you can sit in meditation, and then you can ask yourself, what does joy feel like? What would joy feel like in my body? Where do I feel it? And really try to pinpoint that. What does love feel like? What does anger feel like? Can you narrow down in your body where that emotion is felt? Can you notice? And then the next time you are experiencing a strong emotion, pause. Pause for 1 second and feel into where it resides in the body. See if you can recognize it. If you're frustrated, you're angry, where do you feel it? Pause for a second. Feel it, notice it. It just really helps you get in touch with where your emotions are in your physical body. If you are noticing disassociation spiritually, consciously working to heal trauma, recognize triggers, and pinpoint conditioned behaviors is huge. And I talk about this all the time, but truly trying to clear those things out, trying to heal trauma and clear out programming is just massive for being able to be embodied and to keep more of our consciousness in our body and be present more. For me, asking myself why is a really, really good thing to do. Why do I think this? Why do I feel this way? Why might that be holding me back? Why might I be perceiving something this way? I often consciously check in with that. Why? Why are things the way they are? Why am I the way I am? It's a really important thing to continually check in with ourselves. And additionally important is a consistent practice of connecting with our higher self. So making that conscious effort, we're all connected all the time, but to actually sit down and think about it and to truly try to consciously make that connection, that's huge for people in order to be more embodied and to bring more of their own soul essence into their human experience. And lastly, the energetic one. If you are feeling checked out on an energetic level, what you can start to do is notice your energy field. Notice what it feels like to be you. What does it feel like to be in your own soup, in your own energy soup? And clear when necessary, when you're not feeling like yourself, when you feel like you might have absorbed someone else's stuff, or maybe you went to the grocery store and it was hectic and crazy and you feel frazzled, maybe do an energy clearing and see what happens. See what it feels like to return back to your own base frequency. Also be aware if you're pushing your energy out onto other people. This one can be very difficult to discern, but awareness, that's the biggest key. As well as, am I absorbing other people's stuff? Just awareness, that's all it takes. And once you establish your own sovereign energetic boundaries, you will begin to notice when something's off. And then you can take the steps necessary to bring yourself back to your own home frequency, right? For me, nature is huge to cleanse my field. Being outside any time of the day, any season, is so important. That's a huge part of my energetic practice, truly, is just to spend time in nature every day. Sunshine can help with clearing and cleansing. Being water, huge. Salt water, if you can. If you can take a salt bath, that's great. If you can get in the ocean, even better. Also, people really enjoy sage or Palo Santo to clear their energetic space. So you can try that if that's something that calls to you. I love it myself. So you can clear your whole house with it if you'd like, or you could just, clear around your own body if you are feeling the need to clear your energetic field. So in closing, please understand your humanness is not something to be conquered. On the contrary, finding reverence for our human vessel and living comfortably within it, these are the surest ways in which we not only advance on our mission path, but we also find fulfillment in the experience. So I truly hope that all of this was helpful to you today. As always, I am available. If you need anything or have any questions, I am here and I would love to help. So you can find all my information in the comment section below. Thank you guys for being here. I'm truly, truly honored. Until next time.